show, but I promise you it's not a death by PowerPoint. I'm not going to sit here and read a bunch of stuff to you. I'm going to talk very, very fast, and we're going to go through some things. And then at the end of it, we'll have time for discussions and suggestions or anything y'all want to ask me. And as I've told every meeting we've done, I've tried to tell everybody there's really nothing off the table. If you have a question about anything, I'll be glad to answer anything. If you have something that you want to talk to me about, a teacher or a principal or something like that, I'll meet with you afterwards, or you can make an appointment with me. But we'll go through this, and this is more than anything. We haven't had a community meeting since before the pandemic, and it's just an opportunity to look what's going on across our district and talk about a few things. And then by far, I don't have everything that we're doing in here, but we do have a lot of things that's going on. So I'll quickly, I'm going to talk very fast, so just bear with me. Some of the things that we're most proud of right now is over the past 6 years is our achievements been up. We are graduating more kids than we've ever graduated, and they're more ready for college or career. And so two things that the state looks at is graduation rate. They look at most closely is graduation rate and whether kids are college and career ready. And there's several indicators that determine whether a kid is college and career ready, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But we're really excited that both of those numbers are in the high 90s. And why is that? Because we have great leaders, faculty and staff, and we have great partnerships here in Coleman County as well. And I'm going to talk about a few of those partnerships. I've been sharing with everybody, you know, we invited Blue Ribbon Schools to come into our school system a little over 4 years ago. And I'll tell you that first year that they came in, it was painful because I was really thinking we were really good, and we were good, but they started pointing out things that we could improve in, and it was painful. And but we started on a journey where all of our schools started working on plans to get better and to address those things that they pointed out that we could improve in, and our schools did. They stepped up to that, and they have improved. And we have at least 21 schools that are Lighthouse Blue Ribbon schools right now, and that's more schools than anybody in the state of Alabama have, and more Blue Ribbon schools than anybody else in the state of Alabama. We're really excited about that. We also have several schools that are partnering with the Hope Institute, and that's it's a leadership institute that they go to, and it's all about instilling character in your schools. I'm really proud about that. I'm going to talk about a few of the partnerships we have with the Wallace in a few minutes. And then the picture on the bottom right is several of our judges that you may or may not know that our judges take out of their schedule and go around to every one of our high schools, and they talk about laws and they talk about things that pertain to our young people, to our teenagers, and really about making good decisions. And they want to inform our teenagers about several laws that they may or may not know about and how they could affect them, and I appreciate that partnership with them. I don't expect you to read the fine print here, but I do want you to know this number. Last year alone, through some of the partnerships that we have with Wallace State and some of the dual enrollments and some of the classes that we take locally, and Holly Pond's a school that has a lot of dual enrollment taught here at the school, but through our Career Center where they take classes from our teachers and they get college credit for it, we had students that earn college credit to the value of over $425,000 that they didn't have to pay for. And that's a lot of money for Coleman County kids. And we're really excited about that. You know, one of the things that I've really tried to express to everybody, and I'm really proud of this, you know, there's some research that talks about if young people will take one college course, they're 80% likely to take the second college course. So something we started last year is we want to show kids that they can be successful in college. Do I think everybody has to go to college? No, I don't. Absolutely not. And that's not always favorable for a superintendent to say, but I want kids to graduate high school. If they want to go to college, be prepared to go to college. If they want to go straight to work, be prepared to go straight to work. But whatever they do, we want them to be able to provide for their families. But we started last year, and then this year we did it again. Every 9th grader took an orientation class. And if you're in 10th or 11th and 12th this year, and you haven't had a college course, we included you also. And we bused these kids to Wallace, and they took an orientation class at Wallace. Wallace gave them a scholarship for it. Our school system paid for some of the materials and things like that, but all of these kids got one college credit. And there's so many of them. If you could have been there and talked to those kids, when they realize, well, I can do this. If I want to go to college, I can go to college. And it's really cool because a lot of our kids that live out in Coleman County, many of them still don't know anybody that went to college outside of their teachers or maybe their doctors or nurses and stuff that they see. So for them to just have that light bulb to go off that, you know what, I can do this if I want to. And that's what we want to prepare kids to do. We just want to give them more opportunities. So this year alone, we had over 1,000 kids that took a college course and passed it successfully this year. So going into the 10th grade, they're going to have at least one college credit. You know, and my goal is for every student that graduates from Coleman County School to have at least one college course completed and one credential in their toolbox. And what I mean by that is like a career tech credential or something like that, that they can, if they don't want to go to college, I've got a skill that I can apply towards something to go work. So they're not going to, I don't want them to graduate and say, well, I'm just going to stay at home and sit on the couch. That's not acceptable. We want them to go and make a living for their family. And we're really excited about our partnerships with Wallace. This picture is our Fast Track to Industry, and I'm just trying to inform everybody in case they don't know that we have this program. One of our programs, our partnerships with Wallace, is Fast Track to Industry. If there's students that want to go into a career field, they can apply to go into our Fast Track to Industry, and if they get accepted, they get all of their industry classes are covered, are owned by a scholarship at Wallace. All the remaining classes, we have these teachers right here, and most of these are retired teachers that have come back and are working part-time, but we have them in a building. They're in a building down at Wallace, and the kids come over there. The ones that are not covered by scholarship, they come over to that building and take these classes from our teachers so that they can finish their curriculum. Many of those students, as well as Fast Track to Academics, we've had about 30 a year that graduate from a two-year university or two-year college at Wallace before they graduate high school, about a week before, which is pretty exciting. These are two programs that we have going on. You know, we routinely are talking to industry and business and saying, okay, where are the jobs at? What do we need to do to prepare our kids to be able to walk into a job? And one of those, we're meeting this need that every 8th grader is doing this program. They have to take a career prep class. So every one of them is taking a class. In that class, they're doing a program called We Build It Better. And the way I've been describing that class is probably your dad or your mom or your grandparents probably taught you these skills, but a lot of our students right now are not getting taught these skills because life is so much busier now. And the skills include things like using a tape measure, how to use a hammer, how to use different tools and so forth. And then, but what they have to do in this class, they have to design a project, build a project, market the project, and get it ready to sell their ideas to somebody. So it teaches them all of those things, but it also teaches them how to use a 3D printer, how to use different other tools, measuring electricity and so forth. I got a little video I'll show about that in just a second. But the other thing that we did this past year is all of our 7th graders were introduced how to operate drones. And somebody, you might think, well, that's a neat toy. Well, every industry and business that I know of has an open slot for a drone operator, which seems crazy, but that's the world we live in right now. And they make really, really good money. And so we're introducing it to our kids in 7th grade just as something fun. It's just like a unit that they do in 7th grade. They have a local competition, and then 2 winners from the local school, they go on to have a county-wide competition. So we're introducing it to them in a fun way. And then if they're still interested in that, when they enter 9th grade, we have more advanced drones that they take in the pre-engineering classes. And they actually can get a certification in drone operation and probably go to any state, anywhere they want to work and get a job right out of high school doing that. Another year, you can get an advanced certification, and they can start getting close to 6-digit figures earning a year out of high school, which is absolutely incredible. Wait a minute, sorry. I didn't think about putting let me see if I can turn it up so y'all can hear that. On the projector? You don't have the remote for the projector, do you? Is the volume on here somewhere? Oh, here it is. I may have it up all the way already, yeah. I think it was coming through the computer. I'll see if y'all can hear this. Sorry about that.
All 8th grade students in Coleman County take a course called Career Preparedness. The We Build It Better curriculum is perfect for this course because students get to experience many different career fields, from manufacturing, fiber optics, coding, and even marketing and business. When we ask our students in Coleman County what their favorite course is, it is unanimous that it is the Career Preparedness course and the We Build It Better curriculum. Our students love We Build It Better.
Just a couple more pictures about that, but we're excited about that because it's introducing them to several different things that if they decide to go to the Career Center, they've at least been introduced to that, and then if they get a job in one of the industries here in Coleman County, they're just that further along. This is a picture mentioning our Career Center. This is a picture of some of the things at our Career Center. You may not have heard, or you may have seen on social media where they donated 5 engines to us from the Mercedes plant for our kids to take apart and learn how to work on those motors. We actually had this Mercedes SUV and a Mercedes sedan donated to our Career Center, and the guys and it's right off the line in the Mercedes plant, and their only caveat was, we want your kids to take it all apart and put it all back together and learn how to operate them, which is incredible. And I'll tell you, the first time that I visited the Career Center and they had that thing taken all apart, I thought I was going to have a stroke. But it's good because a lot of our kids have never been around that type of vehicle, and they got a lot more computers in them and everything else. But Wallace State has a program with Mercedes where if our kids, they take these Mercedes vehicles apart, some as a high schooler, they go to Wallace. Wallace will pay their first year Mercedes will pay their first year at Wallace, then they can go during the summer, and they'll pay for them a place to live down at the Mercedes plant, and then they'll pay them, I think it's $19 or $20 an hour during the summer. They'll come back and to do their second year at Wallace, and Mercedes will pay for that. And then after they finish that second year, Mercedes will guarantee them a job in their factory making really good money. And that's an exciting program we have with them. This picture in the bottom left is a picture of our nursing facility at our Career Center, which is second to none in the state of Alabama. And I think I have another picture of that here in just a second, but I'll show you that. We're always, like I was saying earlier, we're always talking to business and industry and say, okay, where are the jobs? How can we prepare our kids to have good jobs coming out of high school? So one of the things it led for us to do is have a lineman school this year at our Career Center. Our young people can come there and they can take this course and they get the certification after they graduate. But we also have a lineman school, and in that same program is a fiber optics program. And if you have Sprout Internet, you may or may not, some of you in here, but I know for where I lived at, there was not another option for internet until Sprout come about. And that's the way it is a lot of places in Coleman County. Well, one of the things, and just being in that circle, and I heard a conversation, one of the things that was slowing down Sprout going through the state is people that can work with fiber optics. They can't hire enough people to work with fiber optics right now. So they explained to me, every time you see that fiber optics cable, if you can imagine the size of your finger, if it splits and goes down the tributary road, there's 144 fibers inside that one cable. And there's somebody that has to sit down with this box in the bottom right-hand corner. They sit down with that box and they have to match those two fibers up, and it doesn't melt them, but just because that shows you how much I know, I'm going to say it melts them together, but it connects those. And when I heard how much that job pays, I think it's $49 or $59 for every one of those 144 times it's split, which is some really, really good money. And they can't find enough people to do that job. So we've got our students being trained to do that. Just this past week, we had a company reach out to us from outside of Coleman County. They're looking for fiber optics certified people. And they said, if your kids will stay in that program, they'll pay them, I think it was right at $60,000 a year coming out of high school with the certification that they get from us. And if they'll go on to get one more, it'll put them up close to $100,000 1 year out of high school. And that's good money, and it can lead to so many different things. And so we're preparing our kids for those jobs. The things that we're wanting to add this coming fall is a cybersecurity. Nearly every business has a need for cybersecurity now. We want to train our young people to go into that field. And we're also going to have our own program where it's a teacher prep program. My goal with that is that our young people that think they want to be teachers can go to the Career Center in 9th and 10th grade. And then by the time they get to 11th grade, they can co-op out as 11th and 12th graders and come back to our elementary schools and work as aides and get that hands-on experience. And it's just as important to know what you want to do as it is to know what you don't want to do. And the thing about it, if they think they want to be a teacher or they think they want to do some of these other careers and they go up there and they spend time doing that, they may think, well, maybe this is not for me and I want to do something else. And the good thing about that, that's before they spend a lot of money and have big student loans and things like that. And so we're really excited about both of those programs. This is inside our lineman classroom. They just got their poles installed a couple of weeks ago. And we're going to be teaching them climbing it and moving things up and down it. And the day I visited, they were actually had pulleys connected to it, and they were practicing, talking about how to move tools up and down on the pole as a lineman and so forth. You know, when I was a young person, it seemed the stereotype, which is not necessarily true, but it was a stereotype. It was almost like if you can't make it in the academic world, go learn a trade. And that's kind of what we said without actually saying it sometimes. Life is not that way anymore. There's a lot of trades that pay a whole lot more money and have a great standard of living or create a great standard of living for people that want to do those. So one of the things that, I don't expect you to read all this, but these are some things that we're doing to bring our Career Center up a little bit. Career Tech has been described to me as dark, dirty, and dangerous sometimes. Well, if you go to any of our factories around here, it's not that way. You could eat off the floor in many of the factories. It's so different in today's world. So we're doing our best to come into that. These are before pictures, and these are after pictures, where we came in and we're cleaning it up, we're painting it. We've changed out all the lighting, we've changed out doors, and we're really sprucing it up to make it more attractive to young people. And really trying to break that stereotype of, well, if I can't do anything else, I'm going to do this. We don't want them to do that. We want them to go. And if it's something they like, we want them to get them a job in it. And a lot of young people are going to go there and they're going to get certified in welding or whatever it may be. And they're going to come out of high school probably making twice as much as the teacher that taught them how to do that skill. And that's just the reality of the world we live in right now. And there's job openings in all of those. This is our cosmetology. You can tell it's taken a step up a little bit, probably since the last time you've seen that. But it looks just like a spa, and we're really excited about that. We're trying to create those workplace environments where our young people can work in an area and hopefully go right into those jobs out of high school. This is our nursing program. We had a few young people that visited there the other day, and this is a room set up just like a surgical room, and there's cameras in there where the teacher can observe them from outside that room, and they can direct them, and so sometimes they make mistakes, and the teacher can record that and show them what they did wrong and help them with that. But you can see the mannequins that we have. They're very lifelike. And then this is a classroom where they go through these glass doors, and the classroom's just over here. We have 2 professors in this program, so one can be over here working while another one's over here. In this particular day when I visited, you can see I think they had 50 kids in that program during that time period. And right now, we're certifying young people as a certified nursing assistant so they can come right out of high school and get a job. In many places, if UAB and CRMC, they can come out of high school, get a job as a nursing assistant, and they will pay them to go back to school to be an RN and so forth. And so it's a great pipeline for us and them. One of the partnerships that we have is with the Imagination Library. And I see some baby carriages over here. If you haven't signed your child up for this, you need to. And but we partner with other companies, other businesses, and the Coleman County Library. For every child that signs up for this program, from birth to 5 years old, they'll get a book mailed to their house every month. And so by the time they're 5 years old, it doesn't cost them anything. So by the time they're 5 or by the time they go to kindergarten, they should have a whole library of books people, that their parents can read to them, and they can read. And we're excited about that partnership. We're really excited about our pre-K program. Not all of our schools have a pre-K right now, but many of them do. Some of them have 2, and there's 1 or 2 that might have 3. This past year, we were #1 in pre-K growth in the state of Alabama. Coleman County Schools was. I'm not going to go over all these bullets, but you can see them. I know mental health is a hot topic in the news right now, and especially coming out of the pandemic. You know, when we made everybody stay at home and all, I won't go into all of that, but we have a lot of kids struggling with mental health, and we have a lot of adults struggling with mental health. But we are blessed as a school system that we have a few things put in place to help these people. And we have 2 programs. One program is called Go Guardian, and the other one is Gaggle, and it searches kids' technology devices and their accounts across, regardless, even if they're not on our internet, they might be on their parents' internet at home. But if they're using our device that we've given them, it continually searches that, even for language or that where they say that they may hurt themselves or hurt somebody else, or even looking for things that they don't have any business looking for. And first they'll email us. If they don't get us, they'll call us, and so we can intervene in these situations. But another thing that we do that I'm very proud of is we have 4 social workers, and we've used grant money and federal funds to hire them initially. And the way I try to define what our social workers do, and I know we have some teachers in here and principals in here, and we can't teach them math and reading if they come to us and they haven't had running water, or if they haven't had food, if they don't know where they're going to sleep that night. So our social workers are really the bridge between the family and making sure they have these basic needs so that we can do what we need to when they come to our classrooms. And they are busy all the time. I know just over the last couple of months, there's been some people from Holly Pond that have lost their home. Even if on a weekend, I make a phone call to Karen Pinion. She calls our social workers, and they're on it. They're making sure they have a place to stay. They're making sure they have food, and connecting them to different service organizations that can help them, and we're thankful for that. Very quickly, we did have Parkside that won the Program of Distinction Award for school counseling. And Kim Crumbly won the Elementary School Counselor of the Year, and Karen Pinion won the Counseling Coordinator of the Year this year, and we're excited about that. You've probably seen the signs about our family initiative. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that every student and every adult is connected to a group, and we're calling our groups families. And I've kind of left it up to the schools right now. We're rolling that out really slow of how they develop these groups and the things that they do in these groups. But we feel like you can see some of the things that I've listed. You know, when you think of the memories that you have when you were in high school, and I describe this to our principals and to the central office staff, is you all can think of the shirts that you had when you were in high school, that you belong to some other group, whether it be the band or be a football team or whatever it may be. We have a lot of kids today, because they're so transient and for whatever reasons, they're not involved in any organization. So our goal is, as a family organization, is they're going to bond to their families, and some of these are made up by homeroom groups and some are advisory groups, and we want to increase the attendance. I know some schools have already had a competition between the schools on which family has the highest attendance, and they tell me stories about how the other family members are kind of calling each other if they're absent, and they're calling them, hey, I need you to come to school so our group can win. A little bit of competition like that, and just pure accountability. And so we're excited about that. The other thing that we're doing with our families, and these are the 6 families, they're based on character, integrity, loyalty, honor, resilience, and respect. But each one of them are adopting a service organization that kids from that family are going to, they can write notes. I know some have made posters. Some high school kids have gone and volunteered to work at some of their places with their families. But I really believe that it's really hard to feel sorry for ourselves when we're serving other people. And so we want to instill that in our young people, to always look out for somebody else. And we're going to be doing that through our family initiative this year. I'll skip over Wisdom Harbor as part of it. If you're not familiar with ccboe.tv, you need to make you a note of that and go check it out. But also, if you have a Roku or Fire TV or Apple TV, you can find our channel. There's an app on there also. You can download that. You can actually download our CCBO app if you have an iPhone or Android, and you can watch it through your app. But these meetings, graduation, county tournaments, and probably a lot of other things that I'm not thinking of right now, all of those things are archived on here. So you can go back and watch those events. And we do a lot of live events on there as well, and you can check that out. And we want to encourage you to do that. I've also started a podcast, which has been really fun. We were talking earlier, we saw the bulletin board over here. My very first podcast was, let's see, it's at the bottom, but it was about corn and pizza. I was interviewing first and second graders. And it was neat because, and I let them ask me whatever they want to ask me, and and they would ask some funny questions and things, and so it was interesting. And they were talking about what they wanted to do. But each week I've tried to interview different people. I've interviewed, and this is on our ccboe.tv as well. But I've interviewed our fair queens, and they talk about their platforms. And I've interviewed some high school kids that we were doing in a partnership with Wallace, and they were talking about what it meant to be able to get a college credit. And just this week, I interviewed a couple of our board members, and I've got a couple more lined up to interview tomorrow. And they just really just talk about themselves and other things. And it's been interesting, to say the least. And there's so much in our school system that everybody else doesn't know that's going on. And we're down next week. We're going to be interviewing some pre-K students, so y'all might want to be praying for me next week. And but that's exciting, and I want to encourage you to check that out. This picture is just some random championship pictures that we had taken this past year of all different kinds of championships throughout the district. By far, it's not all of them. I know a couple of schools have already pointed out to me that I don't have their school on there, and I did not try to get all of them. I just picked a few and put them on there. But it's great to celebrate kids. We did have 3 state championships this past year. Vinemont Middle School won the state championship in archery. Cold Springs won the state championship in girls cross country. And Hansville High School won a state championship in the math team. We're excited about that. If you don't know I think most of you probably got a one-pager that has got our strategic plan summarized to one page. But if you want to go to your schools, or you can come by the county office and you can see the entire plan, we've updated our strategic plan for the next 5 years, and that's going to serve as the compass for our school system. When we spend money and what we teach and why we do what we do is all going to be because of what's in that strategic plan. And regardless who's in this role or even our board members' role, we're going to continue to work toward that strategic plan and help us to be the best school system that we can be. We're really excited about it. Some of you may be familiar with the project that we're doing with Snyder right now. This next picture will sum it all up. Anybody want to guess how much we spend every year in electricity? You can't guess. He didn't hear me. Ricky, you can't guess, but everybody else can. Anybody want to guess what we spend on energy in a year? $2.5 million. $2.5 million. And so we partnered with Snyder, and if you can tell, this was a classroom light, and then this is what it is now. So not only have we came in and we've changed the lighting, all lighting out to LED, we've created a better learning environment, but we're also going to save money on it too. And we're going to use those funds, we're going to put them back in our school system to do other projects, but we're really excited about that. Very quickly, you may not have ever heard about this problem, but I know Ricky has. Ricky works with our maintenance department, and for years, Parkside has struggled with the humidity problems in their school. When they built that school, from what I was told, it had too big of a unit in there. It didn't run long enough to circulate the air. Probably, 15 years ago, they had a mold issue, and I think we spent $250,000 to get all the mold out and all this stuff. So ever since then, we've had these dehumidifiers in the halls and everywhere. We were able to get all of that out. We've changed those units out, and now they control the humidity in the air as well. So those are some of the things that we're doing through Snyder. This replaced the huge, big tank boiler out at Fairview. We were able to come back with, basically, if in your house, it'd be like a tankless hot water heater. And that's kind of what this is, a condensing hot water heater. And hopefully we're doing our best, and Ricky might stand up and praise the Lord, but we're doing our best to get out of the boiler business. And he has to work on those. And from the very first day it's cold to the very last day that it's cold, we're heating this huge tank of water that circulates through our entire campus when we have boilers operating. And we're always working to gradually work those out of our school system. And we've come a long way this year. These are just a few other pictures of the LED lights and things that we've changed out. These are some of our largest projects that we have going on right now. At Hansville Elementary School, we're going to be able to take our teachers and our kids out of the oldest building that we have in our school system. It was the second oldest when we had the ag or the home ec building here. That was the oldest one. So now this is the oldest. I think it was in the mid-30s is when this one was built. And we're struggling there too. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's just, it's an ongoing battle to mold and so forth. But we're building classrooms and a lunchroom. They start eating lunch there about 9:45 and it goes till after 1 o'clock. So we're going to be able to divide those campuses up and let them eat at a regular time as well. Cold Springs has a gym that they're building. They have the oldest high school gym, and we're being able to replace it. Good Hope Middle School, when they built that school about 20 years ago, they used some classroom space for the offices. They used space in the high school for the library, and then they go to the high school gym. So now we're building them a gym, a library, and some office space so that they can take that office space, the classroom space back for additional area. Their middle school is the largest middle school we have in our district right now, and they're growing a lot. The picture down here in the bottom left is Vinemont Elementary School. If you're not familiar with that campus, when that school burnt, I think it was 30 plus years ago, when they built it back, the classrooms open up right to the street, kind of like a couple of the kindergarten classrooms do here, but they don't even have the brick walkway in front of it. It had a small fence. But what we're doing, we're coming back and we're putting this storefront on the front of it, and we're going to be able to channel everybody through the office before they can go to any classrooms. So it's going to make that place a lot safer, and it's going to look better as well. We have installed probably the best special needs playground in the state of Alabama is at our Child Development Center. We have just a little bit more work to do there, and we're going to be finished with it, but we're really excited about that. It looks really, really good. I'm not going to read all these off to you, but I just want you to see these are the projects that we're just finishing up, or maybe they're still in the process of. So a lot of projects going on. These are our next steps. I know the band room here has already been upgraded a little bit. We've replaced your family and consumer science center. I'll show you a picture in just a minute. We're putting a new welding shop out here with your ag center. We're looking at adding some school resource officers at some of our schools. We want to upgrade high school science labs. We've already met here and talked about some additional safety fencing and things like that we're wanting to do here on this campus. We've got 2 roofs right now that we're wanting to replace. There's one at Vinemont and one at Fairview. And when we get those 2 replaced, we will have replaced just about every roof in our district over the last 7, 8 years. And which is great, because when I came in as superintendent, we were all about wanting to add technology, and a lot of our classrooms had one plug, and we couldn't upgrade the electricity because a lot of our schools had buckets in the halls and there was water dripping through the roof. And we've been able to come through and change all those out, and we're really excited about that. We just opened a bid for a Child Development Center HVAC upgrades, and we're doing a survey next week on our first multi-purpose building. And I'll show you a picture of what that's going to look like too, but we've talked about that at Holly Pond, and what a multi-purpose building is going to be is simply that. It's going to be a huge shell that was going to be an air-conditioned inside space that anybody from kindergarten to 12th grade can use. If we have a play and we want to put out chairs in there, we can sit hundreds of people. If the band wants to practice in there, or the football team, or the baseball team, or whatever, it can be used for many different things. But it gives us another space inside. And we're actually in the process of trying to buy some land next to the school right here. I guess it's okay to say that. If not, too late. But we're trying to purchase some land right over here, and the owners know it. We're just working out the details, and if we can do that, we're going to be building y'all's right over there behind the practice field in that area, just right over there. And but it's unlimited what we can think about how we can use this space, and we're really excited about that. This is Hanceville's Ag and Home Ec Center that we're adding down there. Weimar High School, we're adding a library, and we're going to remodel their old library because they're out of classroom space and their science lab is so decrepit. We're going to add a new science lab right there. Holly Pond's welding shop. They'll have a bathroom, all these welding booths, and they'll have a gravel drive coming out. And then right here, there'll be a sidewalk that attaches to where the woodworking area is right now, and they'll be able to come in right there. Fairview High School, this is their home ec and their ag, and we're going to come in. We're not going to change any of the exterior walls, but we're going to be gutting this and remodeling that for them. That's what the multi-purpose building looks like. Of course, yours will not have a WP in the middle of it, but it's just a large, open building. And this last picture is really just where we want to get our kids to. We want them all to graduate. And not only just graduate, I think graduating is the bare minimum in today's society. And then we want them to go on and do that next step. And whatever that next step is. And every time I was talking to a high school kid this morning that was kind of in trouble a little bit. And first thing I want to ask them, what do you want to do when you get out of high school? And every one of them thinks about something they want to do. Well, we want to help them achieve that. And sometimes that means you're going to have to do your math homework or you're going to have to do whatever it is. But we want to help them get where they want to be. We don't want them to graduate and go home and sit and do nothing. We all would like to retire someday. We all are going to need nurses if we live long enough one day. And so we want them all to go and work and do something that they're passionate about and contribute to society. The next pictures, I think it's on automatic and it'll flip. It's just some of the things that have been, that's going on. Let me make sure it's going to flip. Yep. So right now I'll just stop and I'll ask you guys if there's questions that y'all have for me or suggestions, something I haven't thought of that you think if we did this, our school system would be that much better. I'm very open for you to share with me. And if you don't want to share in a big group, you can always schedule a meeting with me and talk to me then. But do y'all have any questions or anything for me? Yes, sir. All right, go ahead.
Career in creating this initiative, how long will it be before that's part of the going to college, like the ACT test? How long?
Well, they are in debates right now about whether to add that for next year, that you got to have one of those credentials to graduate. The State Department may add it where you have to have it. 6 years ago, we were graduating kids and only about 70% of them had that indicator that they have that credential. And now we're at 99%. So most of our kids have that. And we're excited about that.
Next question. This is more the engine where you take it apart, put it back together out there at the Career Center.
Yeah.
This is a comment in '53 when Ford Tractor Company had their Jubilee Edition. They come out and gave a lot of vocations to technical places like
Yeah.
a tractor. Take
Yeah.
it out there. It is probably one of the best things they've done for an agricultural area.
That's good.
So that will be good.
But this car was so advanced, I sat in it, but I didn't even know how to crank it up or anything. I mean, you just had buttons. It was incredible.
In that Career Technology Center, you mentioned everything except Jackie Camp's Precision
Yes.
Machine Shop. They have a great one out there
They really do.
that you didn't mention.
And I didn't, I know the last time we had a community meeting, I had pictures on there. The machine shop, one of the things that they routinely do stuff with NASA. And one of the things that they did, and I got to be part of it, I got to sign my name on it. Some of our students helped make a door for one of the lockers that blasted up to the International Space Station, and it's actually up there now. And they called us up there one day, and we got to sign our name on it and stuff. And so it's up there on this International Space Station now.
I don't think of all questions.
That's all right.
The one where Justin Miller, you moved from Fairview out to the river.
Yes.
Behind the poles, you showed Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay. Give you a brief. My granddaughter went through the fast track. She graduated a week before she did it. And she's a paralegal. She went 2 terms in the summer paralegal. She makes about $24 an hour. But
Wow.
Justin told her, hey, you come back to climb poles and I'll put you at 28, 30.
There you go.
You know, when you get out. So it's a good thing to get people out there. You said, God, it's not for everybody.
Well,
to start.
a lot of our students just don't know that there's other jobs out there. And, you know, the only professionals they see sometimes are teachers or nurses or doctors. And there's so many other jobs that pay really, really good money, and they're begging for the employees. So we're trying to introduce them to them.
Everybody wants a free book in this imaginative library.
Yes.
We have the address, or the number we can call and start.
Yeah.
ordering kids on.
I don't have a number, but I know if you just Google Imagination Library, you can go in the Coleman Electric Co-op. I don't think we have it on our website. I can't remember, but I know on the Coleman Electric website, you can go there and they have a link on it as well that you can find it and sign them up. The public library does as well. I'm sorry.
Dolly Parton's library?
Yes.
It's easier to Google?
Yeah, either one. It's the same thing. Yeah, Dolly Parton's library. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. And she started this in her hometown for the people that don't know, and then it's just kind of bled over to other places.
One more question. This mental health initiative you're taking up here, and you're trying to get the kids to come in there and do it. How hard would it be to co-op with the churches so that these kids out in the community go there and maybe not are qualified? You only got 4 career counselors in it, but co-op with the pastors or school teachers to do something like that.
We have a lot of churches that we partner with, and they come in and do a lot of things like that for us.
Not at their church, at the school.
Right. And a lot of times, I will say this, we have a few churches, and some of them are at Holly Pond, that are always on call. So sometimes our social workers, they'll go to the family that has need, and they'll connect them to a church, and the church takes over for us from there. And then they'll help them with their needs and things like that. Any other questions for me? Or too quiet? Go ahead. Now, I don't think anybody's asking, so you might be asking for them.
Hi. The multi-purpose building you got set up for Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You say, if we buy the property, if we do that, what would be our chances of you going to the board and he can handle getting the other 3 people to vote with you to say, okay, Holly Pond, we've got set aside you $310,000 or $212,000, whatever it's going to take to build this building. You've got the money guaranteed, no ifs, ands, or buts about this property.
Well,
Let them settle where it's put when it's done,
Yeah.
just to know that they've got it.
Well, we're gonna rotate around our district, putting these in. They're all gonna be the same footprint. So what we're gonna do once we get our first one done, we get everything approved and we know that process, then we're gonna start going to the next school and so forth.
Those things are on our capital plan.
Yeah.
We had this year.
They've already been approved.
And those structures are $1 million structures but, you know, the school, the town builds up around the school just like a grain silo, you know what I mean? Or a grain elevator. And so here, Vinemont, anywhere you go, where land's needy, we can't find any more land to put stuff and have it together. Down at Good Hope, there was this problem 15, 18 years ago, and their campuses are 7, 8 minutes apart. You know, luckily we're all connected, and so we've been working with some people up here trying to buy this land. It's just not happened yet. We've agreed on the price, everything is ready to go, but there's been some issues with that family. So.
And it's not contingent on getting that land, whether y'all get the building. That's just where we want to put it. And hopefully we're within, you know, weeks of getting that property. And that we've
Speaking
just
of that capital plan, this is my 6th year, Dr. Barnett's 7th year, and I went to a capital plan meeting. I didn't know what it was. I had came on board in January, and that was probably May or June, I guess, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a stack of papers, you guys, about 2 inches thick, and we had every need and structure and system in our district, and then the maintenance department had went through there and had leveled whether they were adequate or severe or need replacement. We had, I think that year, about $900,000, maybe, and the maintenance guys were just sitting there, and so we picked 2 items that we could fix. And like, these are severe, they've got duct tape running them type deal. And the meeting lasted about 7 or 8 minutes, and I walked out and I said, Dr. Barnett, this is a waste of time. He said, I know, it's just where we are, but we have to do a capital plan. And since that time, with Dr. Barnett and his staff and this board, this year there was 36, 40 projects, maybe, and we went through probably $15 or $18 million worth of projects that we're going to be able to accomplish or try to accomplish in the next year. And that leads into another thing. All of that, things Dr. Barnett has talked about, and I appreciate them and their staff so much, the work that they put in, but the way that's happened has been consistency. And November the 8th, there's going to be a vote where the public can vote whether we need or want a appointed superintendent or elected. Right now, Dr. Barnett is appointed by the board, and it's my feeling that's how it should be and how it should stay. And the reason why is because consistency. The superintendent would come in on a general election just like we do in District 3 here. But there's 4 other board members that are midterm. And so those board members could work with 3 different superintendents. And there's really no way, in my opinion, that a superintendent or a school system can have a vision for multiple years and get to the place that we've been able to get to if we're elected, because it can change, and it can change drastically. If you think about it, if a superintendent has never been a superintendent before, the first year that they're there, they're trying to figure out how to be a superintendent.
They're going to try to not jump off a bridge.
That's correct. That's correct. So the second year and third year, they probably are going to do okay. The fourth year, they're campaigning, trying to get their job back. Dr. Barnett has a job. This isn't about getting him a job. He has a job. But I think to continue moving our system forward, and Dr. Barnett can elaborate on it a little further, we need to stay as an appointed superintendent. You guys vote board members in and out. The board should be able to control who their leader is, I believe. If Dr. Barnett or any superintendent doesn't do their job and they're appointed, we can get rid of them. If they're elected, you're going to wait till the next election cycle and hope that they're not the popular choice again. I looked it up today. There's 1,497 school systems in Alabama. There's 40 that's left in the nation that still elect their superintendents, because they have seen to push a system forward, you have to have an appointed superintendent. And so if you guys don't like the superintendent, vote us out. Get rid of your board members because they're not doing their job. The superintendent don't need to be worried about an election cycle when he's putting together a plan. That last slideshow that he had just shown, it was from year 22 to 27, that's 5 years. An elected superintendent, that won't even enter his mind because he's only going to be there 4 years. So y'all give that some thought and consideration on November the 8th, that vote that's coming up. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Hey, by the way, I love you guys. I love our community. Proud to be a part of it. Appreciate our staff, our administrators so much.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I will tell you, it is on the ballot for November 8th. And I've tried to tell every community center, everybody I can get in front of and tell them, this vote is not about Shane Barnett, because Shane Barnett is not going to be the superintendent for the next 50 years. I promise you that. But there's going to be a superintendent here. And I hope when my grandchildren are going to our school system, I hope that we have a board that continues to put kids first, and they hire the best possible person they can. And if that person doesn't do what they need to do, they fire them and hire somebody else. And that can only happen with an appointed superintendent. If it is elected, They'll go through, if they're the most popular person, they get elected. And if they're popular the next 4 years later, then they get reelected. And that,
The job they do.
no matter what they do. And
And not knocking anybody that we've had. We had some very, very good.
absolutely, absolutely.
Attendance in the past, not knocking any of those guys. But just going forward, a superintendent don't need to be worried with the job that he has as the leader of 13,000 kids, whether he's going to have a job next month or not. He cannot plan the things that he needs to plan. I told Dr. Barnett probably the first year I was on board, the second year, and you know, we had been elected county forever up to Dr. Ross and Dr. Barnett, and I said, hey Doc, look, just do what you do. He looked at me funny, and I said, just do what you do. You've got 7 people that you need to worry about, and if you're not doing your job, we'll tell you. That's it. He's like, hey man, you're right. And then over 7 years of his leadership, his staff, you can see where our system is. And you all would have to agree that right now we're better off than we were 5, 6, 7 years ago. And with a collective board and consistency with the leadership of Dr. Barnett and his staff, we've been able to do that. So I'll be quiet now, Doc.
no, well, it's important that, you know, for all of you to know and you know, and everybody votes the way they want to vote and the way you feel, but it's important to know how the ballot is. And what it says on the ballot, it says, do you wish to vote for your county school superintendent for the next 4 years? Or do you wish to elect them for a 4-year term? And I had a gentleman talk to me at the gas station the other day, and he said, hey, I read the sample ballot, and I'm going to vote yes so we can keep you for another 4 years. And I said, well, you're reading that wrong. And I said, it's not about Shane Barnett. It's moving forward for the generations to come. Do we want to be appointed or do we want to be elected? And I said, if you vote yes, you're going to switch it back to the popular person gets the job. If you say no, then you're voting to go with appointed, which for generations, then the board can hire the best qualified person for the job. So it's just really important to understand how to vote in that. And I don't want anybody to think they're voting one way and vote the other way and so forth. But anyway. Any other questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
What's the name? You put a lot, like, everything, like, all the improvements and all that's really good and all that. And I see a lot of stuff that's geared towards high school. And I have elementary kids. And I have one that is dyslexic. And, I know that's something that the school system doesn't put a lot of focus on because it's something that's newly recognized and there's not a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of emphasis towards elementary in some of this.
Yes, and like I said at the beginning, there's no way I'll put everything in here.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've done for dyslexia is it wouldn't mean a whole lot to everybody, like the Reading Horizons and things like the curriculum and things that we purchase. We purchase programs that our teachers, tools that our teachers can use to help with dyslexia and other struggles. We are about to purchase brand new books for all of our ELA, and I'll tell you, this is a good example. So we're going to get from the State Department to purchase our textbooks, we'll get about half the money that it requires to purchase our textbooks. So we'll get about $450,000 to $500,000, and then we've got to use local funds to buy all of that material, about that same amount that we have to put in there to be able to buy the books for all of our kids. But we're doing it because it's what needs to be done. And they'll have online components, and they'll have other materials with it that'll actually address dyslexia and help with those areas.
I emailed our library just this week about one of the things when I have Nathan's board meeting in a couple of weeks is different like audio and stuff like that. We are lacking here. Like she told me that she had some old like CDs or cassette tapes. Well, we don't possess that kind of technology at our house
Sure.
anymore because we use that.
Right. And does your child have a technology device?
And we have computers and
Okay.
laptops.
So I know there's our current reading series has online components to that you can go on there and get unlimited books and things in
So
there.
it's, you know, I'm still, because this is just our second year with this guy.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to learn as much as I can to help him. and
Absolutely.
What I need, you know, to help him.
Yeah,
So, you know, and what resources I can get that even, you know,
Well-
that even help the school here.
Sure.
So they can help him. Because by the time he was diagnosed, he was already going into the third grade. So now he's a fourth grader. So, you know, he was a little behind, and then, you
Yeah.
know, all this is during COVID. So that hurt too.
you're
So,
right.
You
You're
know,
right.
he's already a fourth grader with this.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of hard.
I totally agree, and it is a struggle. You know, before the pandemic, we had made a lot of strides, and I think academically, and that's why these numbers end in 21, because our numbers this year they're coming out, they did take a little bit of a dip, and a big part of that is because COVID, and we were out for, you know, in and out for almost 2 years, and our kids struggled. You know, and here's the way I like to describe that. We would love to have our kids learning right here, and that's not a reality for us right now, and it's not a reality for the kids in the United States right now. They might be a little bit lower, but the growth that they're experiencing from the time that they've come back from COVID and been face-to-face is astronomical. They're learning faster than the kids did before pandemic. They're not where we want them yet, but they are making big strides, and it's just going to take some time to get them caught up. And
So I was just curious, like, you know, because in it, you know, you show a lot of the high school, and that's amazing because I have nieces and nephews at
Yeah.
several different other county schools, like Haynesville and, you know, here. And, because one of my nieces was, our fair representative here.
oh, okay,
And, you know, I like to see, you know, she did some of the fast track.
yeah.
And that's amazing. That stuff is, you know, I have two smaller kids.
And I didn't put a whole lot in there for elementary kids, but there's a whole lot of things that we're doing that I just didn't put in the PowerPoint. But one of the biggest things right now is trying to decide on a elementary curriculum for our reading series and getting those books purchased. We tried to do that this past spring, and without boring everybody, I'll just tell you, there's a committee from the governor's office, then there's a committee from the state education department, and they both have to approve the books that we can choose from. Well, when they narrowed it down and they narrowed it down, it ended up being one book that we could choose from. And to be totally honest with you, I went through it, and there was some inappropriate stuff in some of those readers, and I just said, I'm not going to spend money on that. So, and actually after we made that decision, the state made the decision that we don't really need to adopt this year anyway. And so now they've come back, and they're adding more books to it that we can choose from more books.
I'm so thankful those checks are in place to do that, because probably the most important thing, second to our educators, is the curriculum we are teaching them. And you've probably seen all the YouTube videos of board meetings where people have got bad curriculum and what's being taught to their kids, and they don't even know. I mean, and a lot of the school boards don't know, but I'm glad that check's in place in Alabama, locally and at the state level, to make sure that
Well,
our kids are being taught stuff.
we went through them, and some of the readers that we sent home, they actually had sexual innuendos in there for young age kids that they may not have ever picked up on it, but it was just, I'll just be honest, I'm not going to get too political here, but it was really promoting an agenda that we're not ready to promote here in Coleman County, just to be honest with you. And so we kind of stopped that process.
If you'll reach out to Ms. Sparks, Dr. Barnett, or his staff, they'll be glad to help you find all the resources you need for your child.
Absolutely.
Well, and he goes to his doctor too next week, because he just turned in. I want to talk to her too, you know, just to see
Sure.
where, you know, her suggestions too. Because like I said, I'm still trying to
Yeah, it's
learn.
new
Yeah.
for everybody involved.
Yes.
It's a learning curve for us adults as much as it is them,
Yeah,
but
it's
we're willing to
a
help.
lot.
It is.
Because- And I have two kids, I have two boys, and we have him, and then we have that little 7-year-old that he's ready to build the rocket to the moon, you know. I have that.
I understand. I
So,
understand.
If you can't find something that we would offer, we would be glad to purchase something that would be worthy of teaching your child.
Yeah, see, and I don't know, like, you know, this is what it's kind of hard, just, you know, what all kind of resources. Do is,
Around there,
you know, yeah, or something like that, because.
And our
with
instructional
him-
coach can help you with
you
that.
know, with him, he is he does better with audio type because he struggles reading and he doesn't like it at all. And
Yeah.
so when he has tests and stuff like that, he won't even, like, he just goes to there and marks it because he can't comprehend.
The way that it's-
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's passing because he makes it enough, I guess.
Well, they'll help him. You said your meeting was next week,
Then I think
in 2 weeks? Okay. So they'll come up with some good strategies in your meeting.
And I'm trying to pull enough too so that I can come to them and be like, so maybe we can all together, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions or anything for me? Yes, ma'am.
I wondered, like, I know you have before social workers, but have you ever thought about doing this program in school? My reason for it is because, like, you have me, and there's a social worker that is often, they say, call her and she'll connect you. And then that social worker could have done with me. And it would be more personal for our students, especially for students that are in foster care.
Sure.
A lot of times it's family that's taking the loans. They don't have the resources, like some people are more privileged. And so then you can get to know the student or like notice, hey, you need new shoes. Let me find you new pair of shoes. Or hey, do you have access to toiletries? Because a lot of us, when we take our family members in, we barely have money for our own kids. So having that social worker on a more personal basis in the schools would help with mental health, would help with kids who are following through the crash. And it would also bridge the gap between your teachers and your parents, where like you can call me and say, hey, I'm struggling, and I can find you more personal resources that are a little bit like more interesting. That's
Yeah.
like that.
And we would love to have more. Funding is the real issue behind it. We're probably the only school system in Alabama that has it for. Many school systems have none. And if we hadn't written grants and things like that, because the state doesn't provide any funding for a social worker, and we have 25 schools, and or 28 schools actually.
In every school, and they like, it's nice because they'll set up like a dad program and have like a guard dads program, where you'll get different dads in the community to sign up, and they'll go to elementary school or just kind of focus in on kids who don't have that father figure, and they'll do breakfast with them or
Yeah.
study with them after school, and it just gives that personal touch, because my two older boys grew up without dads. I appreciated that program.
Yeah.
Knowing that somebody else would come in and social worker that set it up. They do things like Christmas too, where they set up Christmas for families who can't afford it. They pack the gym with things from Walmart to Target, and the families can come shop. It's just, I know we're like a small community, but it's just some ideas.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And our counselors do a wonderful job too. And I know everybody doesn't understand how school funding works, but like most of our schools right now don't even earn a whole counselor. And so we have to use local funds to pay for the rest of their salary to have a counselor there. But the good thing about it is, I was in superintendent meetings last week, and the state is really pushing to double the number of counselors that we have in our schools. So every school that earns one, they would earn two. And so that'll help with that as well. And they're looking at doing the same thing for assistant principals. So that's good to know. Anyone else? All right, well, that's all I have. I appreciate you guys coming out. If you want to talk to me individually, hang around. I'll be here for a little bit. I'll be glad to